All right, so I've already talked about the major changes in life circumstances, that indeed the negative events have a bigger impact, and of course, the larger the event is, and the more common it occurs, more often it occurs. Uh, so again, that unresolved conflict, if a person is not ready or able to take a behavioral change, you will justify it. You will try to justify the action because it makes you feel better or less guilty. For example, I know someone who used to work in, they use the fancy word in England, abattoir. I think that's the word they use, which means slaughterhouse. Yeah. Anyway, so I remember he said that, oh, well, animals don't have feelings at all, which is any psychologist, any scientist would, we all know it's pretty obvious. Anybody with a pet, it's obvious they do, and it's well well researched from neuroscientists of Cambridge Declaration of Consciousness to on and on and on. But anyway, but he really was determined, I think for his own peace of mind. And, I give him a big virtual hug because, I think, he's a normal guy and he needed to earn money while he was in college or whatever. And so he worked at this job. So I feel sad for the workers too, because they have to work out this conflict. So I felt bad for him, but to help him, his own self sleep at night, he convinced himself that they don't have feelings. And you'll see that a lot. I also have a colleague who did her PhD on people who do animal testing, and they would handle their own conflicted emotions in a similar way. Just like, oh, well, they don't feel, monkeys don't feel. I mean, clearly that's way off the mark, but to sleep at night, it helps a person when they say it and they convince themselves. So that's important to know. Anytime, even a goal though, even let's go away from cognitive dissonance, even things that are two goals, that you want both, so even something in the future and deciding, on these things that might conflict. There might be a situation where your parent wants you to major in one thing and your heart wants to major in psychology. I've had students with that conflict who had a couple last year who majoring in business. They went there because their parents wanted them to, but their heart didn't want to do that, and so they switched to psychology. And so they were finally able to, I think, work it out with their parents and have I think the parent at least wanted them to try, so you can, maybe some of you were in that situation. So we can come upon these throughout our lives with lots of circumstances. So yeah, continuing post-traumatic stress disorder. So these are some of the symptoms. Sometimes you see the symptoms right away. Sometimes they show up later. Sometimes it's only they show up during a trigger. So say if you were in a war situation and you were in a terrible situation where there was gunshot. So every time you hear fireworks, for example, it might trigger that traumatic response. And and also same thing happens, and it sounds quite similar. There's actually some places where they're trying to outlaw at least fireworks that have the sound, because animals also get really scared. I mean, how do you explain to them that this is a fake, this isn't something that will kill you?